You ever see one of those huge trucks on the highway and just wonder, what does it really take to build something that massive and that safe? It's definitely not just a bunch of nuts and bolts. Behind every single component, there's this incredibly detailed rulebook. So today, we're going to dive into that hidden world of automotive quality, using the standards from Iveco Group as our map. Right, so we're peeling back the curtain on a huge player in the world of commercial vehicles, Iveco Group. You've seen the logo, for sure. But the systems running behind the scenes, well, that's a whole masterclass in precision and planning. I mean, it's a serious question, right? A part failing on a small car is one thing, but on a 40-ton truck, that could be absolutely catastrophic. So the answer to how they prevent that lies in this dense, super demanding document that makes sure every supplier and every single part meets this incredibly high standard before it ever even thinks about hitting the road. Okay, so to get our heads around how this all works, we're going to follow a part through 5 key stages. We'll start with the quality blueprint, the foundation. Then we'll look at the non-negotiable rules for any partner. We'll see what happens when a part is labeled critical, follow its journey from a prototype all the way to production, and then finally, we'll look at the feedback loop that keeps the whole system honest. First up, the quality blueprint. See, before you can even design a part or pick a supplier, everyone has to be speaking the same language. There has to be this universal standard for what quality even means. And that standard is this thing right here, IATF 1699. You can basically think of it as the constitution for the entire auto industry supply chain. It's the foundation that Iveco and pretty much every other big manufacturer builds on. It's what ensures that a supplier in Germany and a supplier in Brazil are on the exact same page. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Iveco takes that global standard and then builds its own specific procedures on top of it. This is just a little snapshot, but you can see how it covers literally everything, from setting the baseline for parts coming in the door, to auditing how they're actually made, to formally approving them, and then, and this is key, constantly monitoring them after they're out in the world. It's a complete 360-degree system. So, with that blueprint in place, what does it take to actually become a partner? Well, it's not enough to just make a good part. You have to be a good partner. And these are the non-negotiable pillars you need just to get a seat at the table. And this is so important. It goes way beyond the factory floor. Suppliers have to prove they're protecting their people and the environment. They literally have to appoint one person who is directly accountable to Iveco for quality. And they have to log every single material in a global database. It's all about transparency and responsibility. Okay, but here's the thing. Not all parts are created equal. And this is where the stakes get really, really high. In a machine as complex as a truck, some parts carry a much, much heavier weight than others, especially when you're talking about safety. I mean, just think about it for a second. Is a little plastic clip for an interior panel as important as a bolt in the braking system? Of course not. So the system has to have a way to identify and manage the parts where failure just isn't an option. And here it is, the official definition. When a part gets flagged with a special characteristic, it means a failure could risk someone's safety, break the law, or just ruin the customer's day. These parts get put under a whole different level of a microscope. And this just shows you how official it all is. These aren't just ideas, they are actual codes that get stamped right onto the engineering drawings. So different teams might use a different name, but whether it's PQC-SU or CNH2-SU, the message is exactly the same. This part is critical. Do not mess this up. And here's the real kicker. All the paperwork for these critical parts, how they were tested, who approved them, all of it, has to be kept on file for a minimum of 15 years. Why? Well, so that if a problem pops up 10 years down the road, they can trace that part all the way back to its origin. It's all about that long-term accountability. All right, so how does any part, critical or not, actually make it from a sketch on a napkin to being installed in thousands of trucks? Well, it has to run this gauntlet. And believe me, it is tough. The whole process is so methodical. It starts with certified prototypes. Then comes the official product approval, and they have to use Iveco's own specific methods. But it doesn't stop there. Every single year, parts get pulled for a full inspection to make sure nothing's drifted. And get this, they even require maintenance plans for the tools that make the parts. That's how deep it goes. So the part's approved, it's in production, you'd think the job's done, right? Not even close.
Quality isn't a one-and-done thing. It needs a constant feedback loop to stay on track.
This quote from the requirements document is so revealing. This is not a task for some junior engineer. Monitoring quality is a mandatory, monthly agenda item for the supplier's board of directors. That's how high up the chain this goes. And they're not just having a casual chat. They are digging into the hard data. They're tracking defects down to the parts per million. They're looking at the actual costs of any failures. And they're analyzing every single customer complaint from the field. It's all designed to catch problems before they become big problems. Now for the real test of any system. I mean, in a perfect world, this is all just paperwork. But we don't live in a perfect world. So what happens when there's a fire, a flood, or, a global pandemic that just completely messes up the supply chain? Well, the rulebook demands that every single supplier has a contingency plan. They have to think about all the potential disasters, from their own equipment breaking down all the way to natural disasters or labor shortages, and have a documented plan for what they're going to do to keep things moving. And check out this timeline. If a big disruption hits, the supplier has just 6 hours to let Iveco know. 6 hours! That just screams how incredibly fast-paced and interconnected modern manufacturing is. There is absolutely zero time to waste, because one problem at one supplier can literally shut down an entire assembly plant. So what's the big takeaway here? Building a safe, reliable truck isn't just about perfect execution. It's about building a resilient system. It's about aiming for perfection, but always having a plan for imperfection. It's this whole hidden world of rules that makes sure those massive machines we all depend on are as safe as they can possibly be.